Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets, with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
America's reawakening to Christianity. That's the topic of today's Bold and Blunt. And I'm your host, Cheryl Chumley, giving you a Christian conservative look at today's news, politics, culture, and events. Standing up for Christian values, U.S. evangelicals keep the faith with Trump. That is a headline from The Guardian, dated just this week, April of 2025. I'm reading from it now. Evangelicals say president is in step on core issues such as abortion and Israel, and they're backing him all the way. Well, if you're a Christian, why wouldn't you back this president, right? Did you listen to his Holy Week speech? Did you see his Easter well-wishings on his Truth Social compared to the previous administration with the National Day of Transgenderism, or whatever that means, put out there for Easter Sunday? This president has just bent over backwards to advance the idea of America's Judeo-Christian values, not just as a spiritual necessity to keep us free. Because if you know that you are an individual endowed by your Creator, right, with a purpose endowed by God for life, then you know inherently that government cannot steal those individual rights that you already have from God. So not just as a spiritual matter is this president advancing Christianity throughout the nation, but he's also doing it from a more political perspective, guaranteeing the First Amendment rights of individuals in this country to exercise their First Amendment religious freedom. Because when you uphold that principle in the political arena, what you're doing also is guaranteeing that America, for the long term, from a political perspective, will have individual rights at the helm, and government only there to preserve and protect those individual rights. So the fact that this president is so open, using the J word, right, the Jesus word in public for Easter, driving Democrats, driving the left crazy, but, so be it, right? The fact that this president is so open about his faith now and using his very substantial political platform to advance the narrative of America as a Judeo-Christian country. The fact that he's bringing this to the forefront is great for individuals. It's great for individual freedoms. It's great for the spiritual direction of America. But it's great for America's long-term securement of individual liberties based on the political idea put forth in the Constitution that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, among those life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and underscored by the Bill of Rights, which is rights guaranteed the individual in the First Amendment. Religious freedom is one of the core concepts. And the fact that this president, as I said, is advancing both the spiritual direction of this nation as well as the political direction of this nation under the idea of God-given rights is great for Americans. It's great for all of America. And it really doesn't get any better than this. This is what makes America great, the idea of God-given individual liberties and rights. And now that we have a president that respects that, well, not just respects that, but advances that idea, really is a sign of the return of the golden age of America. And before I get into more of this, I want to quickly mention, if you like Bold and Blunt, you may get Bold and Blunt at edify.app, at Real Life Network. That is Pastor Jack Hibbs's news arm out in California, the news arm of his church. It's a great site, Real Life Network, RLN. You need to go check it out. There are a host of offerings there that help you take biblical truths and apply them to modern day news and events. And as I said, Bold and Blunt, I'm very humbled and happy to say, is part of Real Life Network's regular lineup. But you can get Bold and Blunt, of course, at WashingtonTimes.com, where you can subscribe to my newsletter, Bold and Blunt with Cheryl Chumley. Just need your email address entered, and you'll get delivered to your email box Monday, Wednesday, and Friday my commentaries that I write at Washington Times, as well as my Tuesday and Thursday Bold and Blunt podcasts. And again, as I mentioned, every time I cut a segment of Bold and Blunt, you can get Bold and Blunt wherever podcasts are available. I want to also quickly mention my latest book, God-Given or Bust, Defeating Marxism and Saving America with Biblical Truths. It fits right into the theme of this show. Reading again from The Guardian, when asked about Donald Trump's Easter morning post wishing a happy holiday to the radical left lunatics, that's Donald Trump's words in quotes there, fighting and scheming so hard to bring murderers, drug lords, dangerous prisoners to the United States, end quote. One Oklahoma evangelical Christian pastor said, quote, "Isn't it terrible that they are wanting to do that?" End quote. And guess what? The left actually thinks it is. The left is going so far out of their way to defend murderers, rapists, drug lords, and dangerous prisoners that they're willing to travel out of country to go visit these murderers, drug lords, dangerous prisoners, and rapists at their places of imprisonment. I mean, who knew? It's a new day for the Democrat Party, just gone off the rail crazy. They have become so blind to biblical truths. Remember when they tried to remove mention of God from their DNC platform, right? Their Democrat Party platform. That was just such the beginning of one of the ends of them, one of the beginnings of one of their ends. And you can see when you have a party that is filled with people who not just don't believe in God or are uncertain about the existence of God, which so many people are, right? But at least they have open minds and open hearts to the idea of a godly creator. When you have a political party that is not just uncertain about God, but openly hostile, openly rebelling, openly hateful of God and all things godly. This is what you get. You get politicians in that party serving the interests of that party who would rather spend taxpayer dollars, these are tax-paid trips, remember, going to defend murderers in prison than they would upholding the Constitution for the constituents that elected them to office in the first place. It's a crazy, crazy world out there for Democrats. Back to The Guardian. This pastor is the founder of the Pastors for Trump organization. And as he said, he and other evangelicals not bothered by Trump's, this is how The Guardian puts it, right? The Guardian's words, by Trump's extreme and divisive message on the Christian religious holidays because, the pastor said, you cannot unify with evil. Okay, this is something that I've been saying for a very long time. I don't understand why conservatives, why Christians, why Republicans in this country, why sane patriots in this country have been so quiet over the years about the infiltration of evil in the Democrat Party, trying to work with these Democrats, trying to find common ground with these Democrats, because, as this pastor said, you cannot unify with evil. It's sort of what Israel goes through all the time on the international scale. When the Jews in Israel get attacked by terrorists, and then you have the pinheads in the global governments and the European Union and others with anti-Semitic intentions, telling the Jews that, well, now they need to come to the table and work out a deal with Hamas or Hezbollah or Iran and so forth and so on. That draws moral equivalencies where no moral equivalencies exist. If the Jews are innocent in the attack and then the terrorists are evil in their assault, and the terrorists' ultimate intent is to eradicate the entire Jewish people and destroy Israel, how do you come to a meeting of minds on that? How do you unify with that? Well, you can't. It's almost as if the global bureaucrats know that, and they want to get in line behind the terrorists in eradicating the Jewish people. Discussion for a different day, I guess. But, this wording that The Guardian chose to describe Trump's Easter speech and Easter remarks is ridiculous. And I just want to spend a second talking about it. They write, Trump's extreme and divisive message on the Christian religious holiday. That doesn't even make sense because, first off, they recognize the fact that Easter is a Christian religious holiday, but then they call Trump's remarks recognizing the holiness of Easter, which is all about the resurrection of Jesus and how Trump mentioned Jesus and how Trump spoke about the Christian roots of America. They say that that's extreme and divisive. So how can you recognize that Easter is a Christian holiday and then criticize somebody who speaks openly about the Christian reason for the Easter season and call that person divisive and extreme? It doesn't make sense. Anyhow, so The Guardian goes on to say that this Christian pastor's attitude, and the reason I don't say his name is because I can't pronounce his last name. His name, I'll give it a try though. Jackson LaMayer. It's LAHMEYER. Okay, so LaMayer's attitude, The Guardian writes, appears typical of many white evangelical leaders. What, just white ones? No black ones in there? How does The Guardian know? Did they take a survey? Did they survey all the evangelical leaders in America? No black ones, no Hispanic, no... Anyhow, LaMayer's attitude appears typical of many white evangelical leaders who still strongly support Trump despite what? For many, I love how they qualify that. For many, they don't name it names, but for many, like the people who work at The Guardian, like the Guardian editors, right? Who still strongly support Trump despite what, for many, is violent, extremist-laden language that many would see as unsuitable for any religious occasion, let alone one intimately connected to rebirth, forgiveness, and peace. Who are these many? Well, guess what? We know. It's the unnamed cowards, right, on the left, who prefer to cloak their anti-Christian bias, right? They're openly hostile Christian attacks as one of a group of many. They want to get their view out there, but without being accountable for their view. So like these editors at The Guardian who let those two references in one sentence, for many and many, let those references go without trying to make the writer actually specify who these many are. But those leaders in the U.S., The Guardian goes on to say Trump, unlike some past Republican presidents, again without names, has followed through on campaign promises concerning core issues such as abortion, immigration, and location of the U.S. Embassy in Israel, and more generally, his pledge to, quote, bring back Christianity. So the relocation of the U.S. Embassy in Israel, the relocation of it from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem was something that Trump accomplished in his first White House administration. And it was painted as if it was going to be the spark that ignited the world on fire, which of course didn't happen. And it was also conveniently left out of the criticisms that Congress in the United States, right, the duly elected, had actually approved the relocation of the U.S. Embassy to Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem years and years and years ago. But no president outside of President Donald Trump has ever had the moral fortitude to go ahead and do that. So kudos to Trump. He's a very courageous president. And when he talks about bringing back Christianity, well, he's not Christianity is here, whether Trump is here or not, right? So it goes, Trump is not in charge of bringing back Christianity. But as president, as president, he certainly can do much to defend the Christian roots of America and defend the ability of Christians in America to exercise their religious faith in public, even in schools, even in political offices, even in the public square, the public arena. Unlike past presidents, and unlike the Guardian, I'll name them, Joe Biden and Barack Obama, who went out of their way to convince us that Islam is such a religion of peace and Christianity is such a religion of intolerance and hate. So President Trump can certainly do much to open the doors to free expression of Christianity once again in America, and use his Justice Department, use his powers in the executive to ensure that Christians who do boldly proclaim Jesus as the Savior, and Christians who do boldly exercise their religious freedom in public are not persecuted, are not fired, are not sent to the school principal's office, are not pushed out of their public positions. So this president has done quite a bit toward that, and for that we should all be grateful. Even if you are an atheist, you should be grateful at the idea of a president who secures and advances the idea of religious freedom, because that also goes toward the idea of the right to exercise no religious belief at all. But you can't take away the history of America, the truthful history of America, founded on Judeo-Christian principles, founded on the idea that God-given rights are granted to each and every individual at birth, and that government is only there to serve and protect the individuals who hold God-given liberties and rights. And it's not just Donald Trump. It's not just this administration who is out there advancing the idea of Judeo-Christian foundations in America. We are seeing a resurgence of sorts in the culture, in movies, in films, in offerings of entertainment that also provide family-friendly content that is more often than not rooted in faith, rooted in Judeo-Christian beliefs, rooted in Christian teachings. And I'm very happy to say my guest today is none other than Bill Abbott, CEO and founder of Great American Media. Bill, I want to thank you so much for being on Bold and Blunt. So great to have you here.
Thank you, Cheryl. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's talk in general first about GAC Media, Great American Media. You are president and CEO there. You know, this really is a time of spiritual reawakening in America, and I'm sure you're seeing that reflected in the culture, what you do.
Yeah, Cheryl, it really is. I think a lot of this, though, has, existed for a long period of time, and people of faith, for a variety of reasons, haven't always been so comfortable expressing it, or especially recently, not, since I'd say from 2017, 2018 through 6 months ago, people were really uncomfortable with it. And I think it was lying dormant in a lot of places, and now it's great to see people really expressing their belief in God and the values that I think made the country great.
So, what's sort of your mission statement at Great American? What exactly do you look for?
So we are all about faith, family, and country, and being uplifting in supporting the institutions and the values that made the country great and continue to make the country great. And we feel like there's been over time just a diminishment and a degradation of those elements, that if you see faith portrayed in entertainment or country portrayed in entertainment, it's in a negative light. Whereas, there's obviously so much positive that goes into faith, family, and country, and we want to be that alternative voice.
It's interesting because I remember reading a couple years ago that there were some statistics about the financials of Hollywood blockbusters and Hollywood's greatest movies. And if you look at the dollar amounts, according to what I was reading, Hollywood really did have lucrative movies that touched on faith. And yet they refuse to make those movies because, strangely, they say they don't make money out of them. Do you know more about that?
Well, I think that's true not only with faith movies, but it's true with movies about that positively portray heroes and military and the country and families. You look at some of the greatest box office films of all time, greatest grossing box office films, and a lot of them are very much in that family wheelhouse. So it's just there's undoubtedly a creative instinct in Hollywood, and also a cultural one, where you win awards by being shocking, and you win people's favor by pushing the boundaries of decency off the table, and that's what is celebrated. So, it's something that I've seen my entire career in family TV over close to 40 years in this space, and I see it. I've seen it for 40 years, and I don't think it'll ever change. Unfortunately, there's just an agenda, and then there is truly, among some places, an anti-family, anti-country, anti-faith agenda. So it varies. It goes from just not wanting to recognize it to actively trying to break it down.
Bill, if you don't mind, and if you don't want to go here, that's fine, just say. But I'm curious, what's your background in faith? Were you born and raised in a Christian home? Did you come to faith later in life? How did that come about for you?
Yeah, so my parents were people of deep faith. I grew up in a Catholic home, and I went to Catholic school for 16 years, and faith was always an integral part of everything that we did, and they had a very strong point of view on Christianity and how it was portrayed within the media and how it was portrayed in entertainment. And I think that by the grace of God, I ended up in a role that they'd be extremely proud of if they were here today, because it was one of certainly their hot buttons. And my journey just over time was one that. Just again, incredibly blessed to have that element in my life.
Anything that comes to mind that has really tested your faith through the years, whether it hit you personally or just reflecting on something outside of yourself? Anything that was seen as a real test of your faith?
Well, I think the best way to portray it is a way that, so I'll start with something that gave me, it was an enormous boost to my faith, and that was working at Christian Broadcasting Network and the Family Channel with the Robertson family, and really seeing how they approached the world and how they did so much good and accomplished so much, and yet they were not treated particularly well, to say the least, by the press and by the media. And I think that seeing that firsthand and living that really reinforced my faith and beliefs and my belief system. And then I guess, certainly really 2017 through 2024, I think the entire country had their faith tested. Many people had their faith tested with just the enormous amount of hypocrisy that was happening from, all areas of the culture. And that always, I think anytime something is really impacting your life and impacting the quality of what we all stand for and believe in, that tests your faith. I can't say there's any one time that, personally, I would necessarily want to share, but certainly, I've had times where your faith gets tested personally.
I get what you're saying, just taking a broad look at the culture, because here in news every day, that's what I do. And there are some days where it's, wow, I can't believe how far America has fallen down into moral degradation. So I get what you're saying on that. I'm just curious, your response to President Donald Trump's Easter address, where he just came right out and used that J word, Jesus, and talked about sin and America needs God. America will always need God. What was your response to his Easter, his Holy Week remarks?
It's so energizing and so such a wonderful display of courage, I think, and boldness, and to stand against those who demean what a vast majority of people believe, and do it in a way that really doesn't care. And I think that Reagan, President Reagan was my dad's hero, and he was in and around this to a degree, and certainly he spoke out. But the current president is setting a tone and an example that even my dad would probably say is a level above anything we've seen in this country, certainly since I've been alive, and it's just so energizing and reinforces, I think, again, what the vast majority of Americans feel.
Yeah, it is really remarkable how outspoken he is about his faith when he chooses to be that way. Let's spend the last few minutes talking about what's coming up with Great American Media. What movies, what films, what projects, however you want to talk about.
Sure. So we've just come off a great Easter season where we had The Last Supper, which was a wonderful reliving and of the ultimate redemption story and the ultimate sacrifice of Good Friday and The Last Supper. So very proud of what we did this past Easter. And moving forward, we have a movie with Candace Cameron Bure continues her Mystery Wheel movie series that will launch in May. Her Ainsley McGregor mysteries are terrific, and we're very much looking forward to the next installment of that. And joining Candace will be I think maybe we have announced this, but I'll say it anyway. Kirk Cameron's Iggy and Mr. Kirk children's series that is beautifully done and is all about faith, family, and country, and parents can feel good about letting their children watch this any minute, any second of any of the episodes certainly is appropriate for the family and celebrates faith and country, and that's what we're all about. So those are the two big tent poles we have coming in May and June. And certainly beyond that, we're looking forward to the finale of When Calls the Heart, which I think is on May the 5th. We've had 2 episodes. The third one premieres on PureFlix tonight, and on Great American Family on Sundays at 8. So we're excited about the quality of that series and how well it's been received by viewers and subscribers. And we will just continue to acquire and create content that reinforces, I think, the values that the country believes in.
This is from an outsider's perspective, but it seems to me like Great American has just grown at an astonishingly fast pace. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, well, it has. I don't know that I see it that way because we're always striving to get bigger and striving to have a bigger impact and striving to do more. There is not time to stop and look and think and feel about how we have grown. But the brand itself, having not even been in the space for 3.5 years, is really taken off, and I think it speaks to the need in the country and the feeling of desire in the country to return to a simpler time when people were able to speak their minds and they were able to celebrate their country and they were able to celebrate their faith and their family.
Yeah, there's a real hunger for it in America at this time. And I'm just curious, your title is CEO and president of Great American Media. What precisely do you do? So when you wake up in the morning, you go to the office, and then what?
Great question. The world has changed so much in the past 5 years in terms of remote work and the way people communicate that we are, even though we're in office, we have a number of people, key people, executives who are remote. And so we spend a lot of time, unfortunately, on Zoom and in meetings. I think, my area of focus, though, is on the brand positioning and the overall way we position ourselves to subscribers and viewers and creating content that they are going to enjoy, embrace, and ultimately love. And that is where I spend the vast majority of my time looking at different projects that we might greenlight or might not, and then how that fits into the brand that ultimately ladders up to, we believe, putting something good out into the world.
Is everyone at Great American of the same faith, or is that a requirement? I would imagine you would have to be a Christian to work there. Is that a litmus test of sorts?
No, I think there are certainly areas where your faith is. I think it's important for anybody to. It's healthy for anybody to have faith, but there are certain job functions where if you're not on the creative side or you're not involved with the brand or the viewer, it's more of a transactional type of role or a role that is more, you have to be an expert in your area of discipline. So, there's certainly no litmus test around that. But certainly, I think, people feel a great sense of mission here. And I think you need to believe in family-friendly content that, is going to, we don't, I think that's very important that we have people who believe in the mission, but we don't discriminate against people who might not be of the same religion or perspective.
And just last issue here, Bill. Just plug how people can watch the content at Great American.
Well, that's always been a difficult question to answer because of the way the cable landscape works. There is no one channel number that I can give you where you can find Great American Family. It's basically check your local cable provider and look for Great American Family on DirecTV. We're channel 324, and that's the one that is consistent across the country. But in terms of, you can go to our website at greatamericanfamily.com and type in your zip code, and it will show you where you can find it. And then Great American PureFlix, our streaming service, is just going to pureflix.com and subscribing, and you get the vast majority of content that we have on the linear side. So it's a complicated world, I know, but we're doing our best to get the word out there, and we're excited for anybody who would like to subscribe and watch.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Bill Abbott, for your time, and thanks for what you do, to put out family-friendly and spiritual content.
Well, you're very welcome, and it's a joy to hear the feedback that we get, good and bad, and we take it very seriously, and we appreciate the support.
Excellent. God bless.
Thank you. You too.
And that's another Bold and Blunt. Remember, if you like Bold and Blunt, you may get Bold and Blunt at edify.app, at Real Life Network, at WashingtonTimes.com, and of course, wherever podcasts are available. Tune in next time. In the meanwhile, don't forget, stay blunt, stay bold.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets, with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.